بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Adha Service. We start with the 2 rakats of prayers. And in the first rakat, there are 7 extra takbeers. So you start the prayer as normally, but before Fatiha, there are 7 takbeers. And again, in the second rakat, there are 5 extra takbeers. And there is only one sermon. As you know, in Friday prayers, there are 2 sermons. And that follows the prayers. There is no adhan and there is no iqama for the Eid service. So let us start. Allahu Akbar. 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 Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Iza jaa nasrullahi wal fath wa ra'aitan nasa yadkhuluna fi dinillahi afwaja fasabbih bihamdi rabbika wastaghfirhu innahu kana tawwaba. Allahu Akbar. Sami Allahu liman hamida.
Rabbana lakal hamd.
Allahu Akbar. 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 Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله. استغفر الله. استغفر الله. We are supposed to recite an extra sort of prayer, which is Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. You can all join me saying it aloud. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, walillahil hamd. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. Wallahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, walillahil hamd. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Wallahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, walillahil hamd. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولكل أمة جعلنا منسكا ليذكروا اسم الله على ما رزقهم من بهيمة الأنعام فإلهكم إله واحد فله أسلموا وبشر المخبتين. And for every nation we appointed acts of devotion. that they might mention the name of Allah on what He has given them of the cattle. So your God is one God. Therefore, to Him you should submit and give good news to the humble. الذين إذا ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم الصابرين على ما أصابهم والمقيم الصلاة ومما رزقناهم, whose hearts tremble when Allah is mentioned and who are patient in their difficulties, and who keep up prayer and spend out of what we have given them. This is the philosophy of sacrifice, that it is supposed to make you humble, and your hearts are supposed to turn to Allah and think about pleasing Him. And what we actually do is totally against what Allah has told us. We see that in many countries, when people are going out to buy an animal to sacrifice, to make themselves known, to appear on television, they compete with each other to see who can buy the most expensive animal. And you have on the news people appearing, he spent 5 million rupees on whatever it is, and he spent 10 million rupees on whatever the animal is he's going to slaughter. This is nothing but vanity and arrogance and pride. What does the next verse tell us? Our hearts should tremble at the thought that we might displease Allah. And if a difficulty arises, then we should show patience. And apart from praying, what do? Spend out of what we have given them. So God has given us money. Yes, we can spend out of that. God has given us time. We can use that time to help other people. And God has given us abilities. Lots of people in the UK, for example, they can't afford to pay a lawyer. So if you've done law and you can help them for free, help them for free. Not everything has to be about money. And this is what happens when you compete with each other and you say, oh, I bought the biggest camel or the biggest cow or the biggest whatever. Why can't you give a modest sacrifice that no one is going to notice and mention, and spend the rest of the money on helping people? There are plenty of poor people who can't even afford to feed themselves. There are plenty of people who are ill, who can't even afford medical treatment. There are plenty of people who can't afford to send their kids to school, university, and college. Why can't you help those? Remember, we are very lucky to live in a country where education is free, up to university level. And even at that point, you get a loan that you can pay off slowly. In many countries, it's not like that. You have to put down cash. Or they don't let you attend school or college or whatever it is. In the same way, I was in America and I fell ill, and my wife took me to hospital. And as soon as we sat down in accident and emergency, a man came running out. And I thought he was a doctor. Know who he was? He was from the accounts department. He wanted to know if they treated me, how I was going to pay. Was it going to be cash? Was it going to be credit card? Did I have medical insurance? I said, I've got medical insurance. He then took their telephone number. He then went and rang them and said, this guy says he's got medical insurance. Will you pay for his treatment? It was only after they had said yes that they registered my name. And in many countries, even that is not available unless you have cash. That's the end of the story. So why do you have to spend 10 million rupees on slaughtering an animal, which means that you appear on television? Why can't you spend a little bit of money on that and spend the rest on paying for the medical treatment of the poor? Because that will be in line with the spirit of the following verse of the Holy Quran. In fact, the end of this verse says, give good news to the humble people, not to the proud people, not to the arrogant people, not people who go strutting about saying, we are better than others. To the humble people who give thanks to God for the fact that there's food on the table. They've got free education. They've got free medical treatment. And how do they show their gratefulness? By helping others who are in a similar situation. Many halal butchers shops in this country, they have notices up. Book your Qurbani here. So what do people do after giving their Qurbani, their sacrifice with that shop? The shop gives you 20 kilos of meat. So you bring it home, you freeze it, and then you eat it for the next 3 months. How did that help a poor person? Explain that. Because the next verse ends by saying, and they spend of what we have given them. All you've done is bought meat in bulk and frozen it and used it to maybe on the same day have a party, or frozen it and used it for the next 2 or 3 months. Verse 37, one verse down, says, it is not the flesh or the blood of the animal that reaches Allah, but to him is acceptable you doing your duty. And that is what you should be doing. And that verse ends by saying, and give good news to who? Not the one who slaughtered the most expensive animal. Not the person who bought the most expensive clothes for Eid for himself or his children or whatever. But give good news to those who do good to other people. And this is the ever-recurring theme of Islam, that you do good to others. It doesn't say do good to Muslims. Do good to others. It doesn't matter whether a person is a Hindu or a Muslim or whatever his religion is, or his nationality or his color or his sect. If he's in need, you help him. You don't ask him what's your religion. That's a human being. He needs help, and you can help him. That should be the only consideration. Dr. Mirza Yaqub Beg, when he qualified as a medical doctor, went to Qadian, and he met the promised Messiah, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib, and he said, sir, give me some advice about how I should practice medicine. And the promised Messiah said, when there's a person sitting in front of you, you should thank Allah that he has given you the skill to relieve that person's difficulties and pain. Never let the thought, is he Hindu? Is he Muslim? What religion is he? What sect is he? Never let that enter your head. You should be grateful that you can help another human being. That is how we should be. that God has given us a chance to do something, to pay off some of the wrong things that we might have done. And interestingly, these verses are then followed by this: permission to fight is given to those on whom war is made because they are oppressed, and surely Allah is able to assist them. Those who are driven from their homes without a just cause, except that they say, our Lord is Allah. And if Allah did not repel one people by another, cloisters and churches and synagogues and mosques and all those places of worship where Allah's name is much remembered would have been pulled down, surely Allah will help him who helps, will help the person who helps Allah. Surely Allah is strong and mighty. And the spirit of sacrifice is what? That if you find some people, a group of people who are being persecuted, who are being thrown out of their homes, who are not allowed to practice their religion. Notice it doesn't just talk about Islam. It doesn't say if people are not allowed to practice Islam, you fight to support them. It says cloisters and churches and synagogues and mosques and all those other places where Allah's name is written. So a Muslim, the lesson of sacrifice is that you sacrifice yourself. You sacrifice yourself to fight for the rights of others, for freedom of conscience, for freedom of religion, for freedom of being able to practice their religion. The lesson of sacrifice is not, as I said at the beginning, to buy the most expensive animal and then appear on the television, on news, beaming proudly and pointing to the animal that it cost me 10 million rupees or whatever it that lamb represents our human desires, our worldly desires. That animal represents our animal desires, our human desires, to have money, to be rich, to feel better than others, to feel superior than others, to overload others. So when you sacrifice that, you should be sacrificing your own base desires, your own arrogance, your own enmity, your own jealousy, and becoming, as the verse says, humble. And you make yourself. Let me give you an example. Long time ago, Christians from Spain went to Muslims in North Africa. And they said, in our country, that is Spain, another Christian sect is persecuting us because we disagree with them. We've heard that under the Muslims, no one is forced to follow the religion of the majority of the people. Everyone is free to follow whatever the religion they want. So please come to Spain and free us from those people who force us to follow their interpretation of Christianity. And we've heard about the Spanish Inquisition and all the other things. So Muslims went and they fought on behalf of these Christians who were being persecuted. And this is what are you saying? Because one group of Christians was treating another group of Christians badly, Muslims went and helped those that were being mistreated. When Christians conquered Spain again, from Muslims. They were burning Jews and Muslims alive. They were burning them alive if they didn't become Christians. So the Muslim Khalifa, ruler, he's called Suleiman the Magnificent. He ruled from Istanbul in Turkey. He sent his fleet to Spain to rescue these people. He didn't just rescue Muslims. He rescued the Jews as well. He took them to Palestine. And he said, the Jews, you came from Palestine, now you can live here. And he built them a place so that the Jews could worship. And this was a treaty of the Holy Prophet Muhammad with Christians. And it starts off by saying, this is a treaty between Nazarenes, that's the Christians, and Muhammad, the Prophet of Allah. And its duration is to the end of the world, that a Muslim government will not levy taxes on Christian charitable institutions. That if a church falls into disrepair, the Muslim government will repair it free. If there is a community of Christians and they don't have a church, the Muslims will build them a church so that they can worship in there. That was why Muslims were successful. And God says elsewhere in the Holy Quran, it is the humble who are successful, not the arrogant. I've got a question. Go on.
Isn't it like, so if the arrogant do wrong and the humble do right, the arrogant, bad things will happen to them, but good things will happen to the humble?
Yes, that's right. Good things will happen to the humble, and eventually the arrogant will fail. Well, haven't we seen an example of that recently? What's the example?
Russia attacked Ukraine. No.
That's one example.
Boris.
And look, that's a very good example. That's such a big country and they're stuck in there. And a small, humble country is not letting them win. And that's been going on for months and months and months. And we also have an example in our Prime Minister, Mr. Boris Johnson, who thought he was better than others. Everyone else couldn't even go to the funeral of their parents or their brothers or their sisters or whatever. But he was having parties in Downing Street. See, that is being arrogant, that you think law doesn't apply to me. I'm the Prime Minister. I can do whatever I want. And look, he's been humiliated. I mean, this is a punishment, isn't it? On television, people are coming and saying, Boris Johnson is a liar. He should be thrown out. He's dishonest, and so on and so forth. These insults and humiliation is punishment as well. Punishment doesn't have to be that someone, gives you 3 kicks up the backside. It can be in many ways. But yes, you are correct. But the interesting thing that arises from your mention of Ukraine is this: Muslims in Burma, in Rohingya, are being persecuted. Okay? Next door is a Muslim country called Bangladesh. If Bangladesh attacked Burma to save those Muslims, all the countries in the West, like USA and United Kingdom and France and so on, they'll be jumping up and down saying, oh, look, these Muslims, they're attacking the country next door and so on. But Russia attacked Ukraine, and these countries are sending money and tanks and missiles and everything to Ukraine for them to fight. Why is it wrong for Muslims to protect their own people when they are persecuted, but okay for the Western people to protect, in this case, Ukraine or other places? I'm surprised actually that someone actually listens to my sermons. Generally, people slowly fall asleep. So thank you for your insightful question. And with that, I'll end my khutbah just to remind you that for 3 days after Eid, you're supposed to say. It's a simple prayer. So I'll end with that as well. Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Wallahu Akbar, Walillahil hamd. Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Wallahu Akbar, Walillahil hamd. Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Wallahu Akbar, Walillahil hamd. By Eid Mubarak to everyone, those of us who are watching us, those of you who are listening on Podbean and other media. And I take my leave of you with the prayer that whoever you are and wherever you may be, whatever your religion or sect or nationality or color or creed, may Allah keep the whole of humanity under His wing and safe from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, goodbye, and Eid Mubarak.